and welcome to The Better Part. Today we will be discussing a wonderful country of color, tradition, diversity, history, fabulous food, and most of all, mystery. It is India. Please stay tuned.
Welcome to The Better Part, a program by and for seniors, and devoted to exploring the many facets of those better years of our lives.
Hello, I am Phil Lenahan of The Better Part. Today we have as our guest Animesh Narang visiting us from India. He has worked in the tourist industry and is very knowledgeable in advising visitors on the treasures of India. Welcome, Animesh.
Thank you for having me on the show, Phil. It's good to be back in the Bay Area talking about my favorite topic, India.
Well, I'm sad to say I knew very little about India before I started researching this program. So could you give me a thumbnail sketch about India and a few of the basic facts?
Absolutely. To start understanding India, Phil, imagine first a country which starts at the same latitude as San Francisco and stretches as far down south as the Panama Canal, is home to over 1 billion people who speak over 20 different languages. To this, diversity add a culture which is over 5,000 years old, which has been influenced by everybody: the English, the French, the Spanish, the Portuguese, the Arabs, the Afghans, the Iranians. They've all made India their home and influenced how we are, our food, and our culture. And you know, when you start doing that, you have India as a truly original melting pot of the world.
I did not realize that India was that long. I mean, that takes it to a lot of climate changes and a lot of differences when you go a country that stretches far down as the Panama Canal. Oh, I like mysteries. What are your top destinations in India? I know it's a vast country, and that's kind of hard, but there must be a hierarchy of places to visit which you can tell our visitors about.
Well, any trip to India for a first-time visitor must include the tour of the Golden Triangle. This includes 3 cities, which starting off at Delhi, which is the capital. Over here, you can expect to find about 1,000 years of history and architecture. You can find some of the best restaurants in India, great shopping, vibrant art, and culture. From there, you can head to Agra, which is the city of the Taj Mahal, maybe one of the most famous monuments in the world. Also, it has, interesting places like a ghost town of Fatehpur Sikri. From Agra, the next destination of the Golden Triangle is Jaipur, which is in the desert state of Rajasthan, also called the Land of the Kings. And over here, you will find whimsical palaces, medieval forts, bustling bazaars, and an old city painted pink. So, starting here, you can further extend your trip into India by visiting the town of Udaipur, which is also in Rajasthan. Udaipur, Phil, was recently voted as the #1 city in the world to visit.
What was the town again?
Udaipur.
Okay.
It is located in the desert, but on the banks of 4 lakes. And it has great palaces, great forts, unique bird life, if you like birds, a very unique art form called miniature painting, and luxury resorts. It is a fantastic place to visit. Another very popular destination for people coming into India is the southern state of Kerala, which, because of its natural beauty, is known as God's own country. And Kerala is, like I said, in southern India, it offers very unique things. Like, for example, it has a very extensive water system where you can explore the rural lifestyle of Kerala, or you can visit spice and tea plantations. Or, if that doesn't work, there are luxury resorts where you can get pampered. And if you like wildlife, we have some excellent tiger reserves where you can take night safaris with ex-poachers. Cannot be done anywhere in India but Kerala. So these, Phil, would be my recommendations for a first-time visitor coming to India.
On the Golden Triangle, how far apart are these 3 cities?
So, they're it's almost like an equilateral triangle. It'll take you about 4 hours to 5 hours to get from Delhi to Agra, another 4 to 5 hours to get to Jaipur.
Would you drive it or bus it or?
Well, the best and the most efficient way of getting around India and to these cities is using the train system. It is cost effective. So for $20-25, you can get from Delhi to Agra or from Delhi to Jaipur or Agra to Jaipur. It's a full service. For $25, you get a full meal, you get tea, coffee, etc. And trains run largely on time. And it's a better alternative to flying, which tends to be expensive, and driving because of the traffic on the roads. So take a train, you'll enjoy it, you'll get to meet people and see a culture kind of from a different way.
Okay, you mentioned time. I heard the expression of Indian stretch time. What is that?
Well, Phil, when you're a culture which is 5,000 years old, time tends to lose its relevance. We work at a pace which is kind of our own, and being 30, 40 minutes late is okay, and you just plan for that.
So it's just Indian time.
It is absolutely, like I said, 5,000 years old, time is not important anymore.
Well, they didn't have clocks in those days, so I guess they just arrived when they arrived.
Absolutely.
All right, let's go over some of the regions of India.
Well, India has 6 distinct regions. Starting at the north is North India, which is dominated by the Himalayas. A very young mountain range, but is a dominant feature of this area. Over here, you'll find quaint colonial towns like Shimla and Mussoorie, which the British built to beat the heat of the plains. You'll find the home of the Dalai Lama, the head of the Buddhist spiritual movement. You will also find great adventure sports, whitewater rafting, hiking, bicycle safaris, and very unique landscapes like a mountainous desert with blue skies, ancient monasteries at about 12,000 feet. And the cuisine here, obviously, being very close to Central Asia, has very distinctive influences from the Afghan and Persian style of food. They include things like kebabs, curries, vegetable stews, very much what you would find if you were to go into Pakistan, Afghanistan, etc. Moving down south, a little further south, we have Central India, which is a large and vast area, which includes some of the Himalayan ranges, includes forests, and of course the plains of the river Ganges. It has the highest concentration of people living in India, and is a great place to visit because it offers something for everyone. It has forests, so wildlife and tigers are plentiful in this area. If you like culture, it has Banaras or Varanasi, which is the oldest living city in the world and a center of Hindu culture and learning. If you like architecture, Agra, where the Taj Mahal is located in this region, and many towns with medieval forts and palaces.
Why should somebody visit India?
A few reasons. India has something for everyone: an ancient culture, monuments and history that goes back 5,000 years, culture which is ancient and evolving, great restaurants, excellent shopping, wildlife, beautiful nature, great beaches, family activities. The second reason is India, like you said, is a mystery, and coming here is like an adventure. Many towns with medieval forts and palaces. The cuisine of this area is very interesting also. It has been influenced by the Hindu culture, which is largely vegetarian, of Banaras. And at the same time, it has the meat-loving culture of the Muslim rulers who ruled a large portion of this area. And you'll also find the famous Indian fruit of a mango. There may be 1,000 varieties of this grow in this area.
1,000 varieties of mangoes?
Absolutely, that I know of.
Okay.
And then you have these very unique drinks called sherbets. They're made from thin yogurt and include fruits and herbs to kind of help you combat the heat, which is 6 months of the year. It's very hot in this area. So the sherbets.
It's a spicy smoothie.
It is a spicy smoothie, but it can be very refreshing. It's a spicy, refreshing smoothie.
Okay.
Absolutely. Phil, from Central India, we head east towards a region called Eastern India, a very ethnically diverse area, which includes Calcutta or Kolkata as its main city. Kolkata was the British capital for the longest time and includes fantastic buildings from that era. It also was the home of the Indian cultural renaissance beginning in the late 18th century. So just a very lovely place to visit. From there, you can head into the Northeastern States, which are remote, tribal, and rarely visited. Over here, you can find, ancient monasteries, peaceful markets, all under the shadow of the mighty Himalayas. The cuisine is very different. You have some unique cuisines here. Again, because of the British influence, we have something called the Anglo-Indian cuisine, which was, giving an Indian flavor to bland British food. And the Northeastern states specialize in the steamed food, something like a dim sum, like a Chinese dim sum, and the local beer, which is called chang, which is made out of rice or millet. So like a very different area to visit. Now let's scoot across to the other side of the country, to Western India, where while the East was ethnically diverse, the Western is geographically very diverse. You have the influence of both the desert and the sea. You have the state of Rajasthan, which is, like I said, called the land of kings. It has the best hospitality in India and is the most tourist-friendly state. Over here, you can expect to find, whimsical palaces, forts, bustling bazaars, great shopping, even interesting arts, all the things that kings used to do. Another unique thing in Rajasthan is all these old medieval forts and palaces, or some of them have been converted into luxury hotels. So it's a very unique experience staying in a palace where a king used to rule over. Just south of Rajasthan is a state called Gujarat, again on Western India. Very different from Rajasthan. It is influenced by the sea. So instead of the desert, you now have salt flats dominating the landscape of Gujarat. And instead of forts and palaces, you have things like step wells, very beautiful step wells. You have marble temples and textiles dominating the cultural scene. The food of this area is also very different. Rajasthan is known for its spicy meats to kind of help cool down during the winter and the summer, And Gujarat is largely vegetarian food, kind of with sweet and savory flavors. Continuing our journey through India further south, we enter the coastal area called southwestern India. Over here, you have Mumbai, which is the largest metropolis in India, home to about 19 million people, the largest movie industry in the world, Bollywood, and again, just very diverse architecture. You have great Gothic architecture from the Victorian age, and you have the second highest concentration of Art Deco buildings, second only to Miami in the world. Also, in southwestern India, you have the state of Goa, with its largely Portuguese influence. So you have a very different cuisine, a very different lifestyle. You have these old European-style colonial homes. Just a very, very different place to visit. This area is also the largest grape-growing area in India. And India's young wine industry is headquartered in this region.
And that interests me.
It is, they do great white wines. We're learning to make reds. But you have the guy who started it all off was a gentleman, I forget his name, but he studied at Stanford and he worked at Oracle, and then he moved back to India to start up the Indian wine industry. And it's coming along nicely. They do good Chenin Blancs, good Sauvignon Blancs. The reds are kind of work in progress.
They take time.
They do take time. And actually, this guy actually has a winemaker from California kind of heading up his winery. Kind of moving down south, we have southern India. Southern India is the home to the original Indians, kind of who trace their roots back to the origin of the Indian civilization, 5,000 years old. And they're famous for their temple towns and for their natural beauty. The main cities is Chennai, which is a capital of a state called Tamil Nadu. And you can come here to see very unique churches, which are its hidden treasures. You can come here to see temples. You can come here to see British era architecture, or walk on this marina, which at one time was called the most famous promenade in the world. I don't know who called it, but it was called the most famous promenade in the world.
Some PR person.
Most probably, yeah. And then also in this area is the state of Kerala, we talked about for its natural beauty. And we also have a very unique town called Hyderabad, which was home to the Nizams, who were at one time the wealthiest rulers in the world. There's a story which goes about the Nizam of Hyderabad, Phil, that he wanted to go buy a Rolls Royce, and the Rolls Royce dealership in England kind of tossed him out. So he got so upset, he bought 7 Rolls Royces and used them to take his garbage out, one for each day. So, the architecture of this state and this city reflects the eclectic nature of these rulers. It has Moorish churches, it has Palladian classical Greek buildings, and traditional Muslim architecture. So a fascinating place to visit Hyderabad. Also, this is home to a very unique cuisine called Hyderabadi cuisine, which has again Turkish and Persian influences. And it's famous for its very complex rice dishes, which are cooked overnight, include vegetables and meats. And the puff pastries, they're very famous for their puff pastries. There's a saying that the wives of all the nobles used to compete as to who used to make the most unique puff pastries. And there was I don't know if it's true or not, but there was a story that they figured out how to get a live bird into a pastry. So when the person would cut the pastry, the bird would fly out. So it's just a very unique, colorful part of India. And that's pretty much it about India, Phil.
Well, that's obvious that you have been influenced by all of these people coming and going from your country, and it just has left its little places all over the place.
Absolutely, Phil.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Well, what about if I want to come in, I want to go off the beaten path. I want to see something different rather than the regular things. Where would I go?
Well, Phil, my favorite destination in India is central India. And the state called Madhya Pradesh, literally the state in the center, is highly recommended for people trying to get off the beaten path. Over here, you will have 30,000-year-old rock-cut paintings. You can only see them in Spain, similar prehistoric age paintings. You will find great Buddhist monuments. You will find forests with tigers in it. And 2010 being the year of the tiger in the Chinese calendar, India is the best place to see these tigers. And Madhya Pradesh has the best game parks. The other destination, which is off the beaten path, are the Northeastern States. Assam, Sikkim. They're, like I said, fairly remote areas, so they don't have the tourist infrastructure, but they are beautiful places, rarely visited. And if you are there in May, the state of Sikkim hosts the International Flower Festival, where you can see about 500 varieties of orchids on display. So again, a very unique place. The other kind of are the islands. India has, while we have 29 contiguous states, we have an archipelago of islands on both coasts, about 1,000 miles from India. On the east are the Andaman Islands, where you have floating, swimming elephants who are part of the lumber trade. You have pristine beaches, and you have excellent snorkeling and big fishing. On the west, we have Lakshadweep Island, which is kind of not for the backpackers, really. It is a more expensive place to visit. And over there, you have a completely isolated island called Bangaram Island, and all that island has is a 30-room resort. And you can just go stay there and just not see anyone for days on end. So these three places, these three areas would be my recommendations for those looking to get off the beaten path, Phil.
I've seen pictures of the islands, and they're absolutely gorgeous.
They're absolutely stunning.
The water is clear, and the snorkeling and the fishing, and it's just wonderful.
The government of India has made a lot of effort to keep it like that. And, they restrict the number of people visiting these areas. You need special permit to visit these areas. So they're not the easiest areas to visit, but if you do get a chance to visit these, it's a very rewarding experience.
Take us through the cycle of the seasons. When is a good place to visit, and when is a marginal time to visit?
Sure. The best time to visit India is in the winter and the spring. The winter starts in October and it runs till about Jan. The weather is fantastic throughout the country. The nights are cool, cold. The days are pleasant, and it's also the most auspicious time in the Hindu calendar. You have a lot of festivals in this area, so you get to participate in these very unique celebrations of life. The spring is short, February and March. It gets a little warmer during the day, but it's still very bearable, very nice. And the evenings are very pleasant. If you're in India in February, for example, you should visit Mumbai. Like I said, a huge city. But it is home to the arts festival and dance festivals in February. So it's a fantastic place to visit. The summertime gets really hot in the plains. Summer starts from April, runs till about June. Gets really hot in the plains, and most of the country is unvisitable. But the hills are fantastic. Like I said, the British built these little quaint little towns in these hills, which are lovely to visit, not only for the architecture, but just to get away from the heat. You can also visit the Northeastern States, like I mentioned. Sikkim hosts the flower festival, as I mentioned. And the hills are the ideal destination for the summer. The worst time to visit India is in the monsoon, which is, again, July through September things get very unpredictable in these areas. Trains run late, flights get cancelled, cities get flooded with water. But if you're interested in Ayurveda, which is about a 2,000-year-old Indian system of medicine and of well-being, then the monsoon time is the best time to visit. You get the maximum impact from their therapies and massages. And Kerala in southern India is the epicenter for Ayurveda. So you could visit that if you have to visit India during the monsoons.
Do they consider the monsoons a cleansing time?
They really do. It is the time where the sun is beaten away by the rain. The earth is washed clean. And, we restart and we get ready for the winter.
Ah, okay. Give us some travel tips if I'm coming to India. What should I be aware of?
Phil, the best way to get around India is to see it by train. It is a very cost-effective and efficient system. It's the second largest train system in the world. You can get pretty much to all major tourist destinations from, let's say, a hub like Delhi for about $25. Second thing to be very careful about is how you deal with hawkers. You will be surrounded by hawkers trying to sell you things, and the best way to deal with them is to completely ignore them. If you even say no, it can be taken as a sign that you're interested. So just walk away. In India, negotiation is a way of life, and you must be ready to play hardball. And there are certain rules that I think you should follow while negotiating. The first is always agree to a price upfront. You will be asked to pay what you like. Nah, don't fall for that. Always agree to a price. But in agreeing to a price, make sure that you're not the first person to quote the price. Once you've been quoted a price, signal your comfort level with bargaining. Most people visiting India are not comfortable with that and they get taken advantage of. So signal your comfort with bargaining by counter offering a very ridiculously low price, let's say 10% of the original offer. If nothing works, remember, you can always walk away. There is something better round the corner. And just remember one thing, this is not a fight. It is a way of life. So always smile. It will go a long way. Also, Phil, in India, people have a very different concept of personal space. When you have 1 billion people living in an area 1/3 the size of the United States, space is at a premium. So you will get jostled, you will get pushed around, but try to be as tolerant as you can. No offense is meant. And if you're feeling uncomfortable and you need to make space for yourself, do what I do. Put my arms on the hips, put your elbows out, and people will just walk around you. So just remember that. India is a very conservative country, Phil, and so dress appropriately and avoid any public displays of affection. Finally, Phil, India runs on bakshish or tipping. And to get anything which is hard to get, a tip is a must. And you need to be very generous. A couple of dollars does the trick. And if you're in a restaurant, in a hotel, a standard tip is about 10%. But most restaurants and hotels nowadays do include a service charge from 5 to 10%. And if that is the case, there's no need to add anything else.
Well, the clock is catching us, and television does not have stretch time, as India does. So could you tell us where we can get some more information and tourist tips?
Absolutely. The government India, through its consulates and foreign travel offices, has a vast variety of information that's available to the user. It's all free of charge, and you can find the information on the websites, which are www.incredibleindia.org, which is the official website for Tourism India, and www.indianembassy.org, which is the official website for the Government of India in the US. My personal favorites for finding information are the New York Times travel section and Frommer's. Both of them have exhaustive information on India.
Well, that should suit our visitors' needs. Well, I'd like to thank you for visiting us today, and I know you're on vacation, so I wish you have a very wonderful vacation in California, and maybe someday we'll see you in India.
Absolutely. Again, thank you for having me, Phil.
You're welcome. We hope you have enjoyed today's show about India. Maybe someday your travels will take you there. Well, that's it for today's show. See you next week on The Better Part.
Thank you for joining us. We hope that you have found today's program both informative and interesting. If you would like to suggest a topic or a guest for The Better Part, you can always reach us at the Cupertino Senior Center. The number there is 408-777-3150. You can learn more about us and order a copy of this program or one of the many programs that we've done by visiting our website. The website address is www.thebetterpart.com. The Better Part has many of its programs available through the Santa Clara County Library System. And The Better Part has selected programs also on YouTube. Thanks again for watching. See you next week.